Hi everyone, I'm going to give you a quick update on printing from Lightroom. I have a selection here of images in my library. I'm going to select this image of this camera. I won't do anything in Lightroom right now. Perhaps, let's see, we could go to the develop module, and I want to do a little crop here to get rid of this little corner right there. So in the crop tool, bring it in slightly and rotate it, get rid of that little edge there. Okay, and now I'll go to the print module, and what we're seeing right now is we'll set up the printing for a printer. This is illustrating a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. And the gray border around here indicates the white area indicates the printing area. The lines right here are the margins that are set over here, and these margins, when you're setting up a printer, are all set up here under the page setup. So you go to your printer, you go to the standard size, and if you want to change the margins, you would go to manage custom sizes. I won't do that now because there's a easier way to do this if you're going to be printing at a service bureau or sending your stuff out. So I'm going to cancel this. It's actually quite easy. If you scroll down here in the print, I guess the print palette, and choose JPEG as the file format, because you're going to output to go to Service Bureau or have it printed externally. Type in custom file dimensions. It basically takes the dimensions that came in with the paper. One of the immediate changes you'll see is that now there's no longer a restricted print area. So if you're interested in adding a border, for example, this is a better way to do it. So I'm going to set this up to 10 inches wide by 8, 1 by 10. Now I still have these margins here. I'm going to move these up out of the way. And if we take a look at the margins up here, if you slide these all over to 0, now there's no limit there. The lines that you see are determined by the cell size. So in this case, for the height, I'm going to pick 6, which is basically 8 plus 2 inches, and then here I'll set this up to 8 inches as well. Now the aspect ratio of the image doesn't match the area that's available for printing as determined by this margin here. So the way around that is to come up here to the top and click on zoom to fill, and now the image will be slightly cropped on the edges. If you take your hand tool, you can move it around if you want to reposition this the way you want it. So now I have a 1-inch border on an 8 by 10, basically an 8 by 10 file. Just to be clear on this, we're going to output this as a JPEG file. You're going to take that JPEG file out and have it printed. The file resolution should be at 300 pixels per inch. Print sharpening, I would recommend it standard. JPEG quality, set it to 100. Depending upon where you're printing, you might want to change the paper profile. If your Color Lab offers a paper profile, then you would load in the profile, and you would select it here. In this case, I'm just going to choose Adobe RGB as the printer profile, but definitely if you know the printer, if the lab gives you a printer profile, then by all means certainly select that. I'm going to leave print adjustment alone, and before I go any further, if I know I'm going to want to use this over and over and over again, good idea to save these settings. So I'll come over to the template browser, click on the plus sign to add a new template. So this is a landscape orientation, so it's really 10 by 8, and then I put in an L just as a shortcut for landscape to remind myself, and then 1 inch as the border, so I know that's going to be set up like that. If I wanted to do a portrait version, relatively easy, even though I might not want to do that on this particular file. I can come back down here to the print file, the custom file dimensions. In this case, I'm going to set it to 8 by 10. So now it's basically a portrait orientation. Same idea up here. I'm going to change this to 8 on the vertical side and 6 on the horizontal side. So now, again, this is being cropped because I have the zoom to fit feature turned on up here. So zoom to fill fills it up. In this case, obviously it's a landscape image. If you want to see this, you can actually reorient this. Choose rotate to fit, and now of course it's landscape but presented vertically. If you find that as you see things in Lightroom that are like this, just check these boxes up here. Okay, so now I'm set up for, say, a portrait orientation, so I'm going to save this as my template. So I'm going to call this 8 by 10, P for portrait, and then 1 inch, so I know that there's a border on that. So now I have basically setting up templates. If I wanted to do this, say, as an 11 by 14, come back down here, we'll say this is going to be 14. I want a landscape, so 14 is the by 11. So now I have an 11 by 14 file, and this should be 9 because that's 11 minus 2 inches, so this is adding an inch up here and down here, and 12. That would be 14 minus 1 and 1, so 14 minus 2 is 12. So here's my 12, my 11 by 14 with a 1 inch border. Zoom to fill, see the aspect ratio isn't correct, so again I click on zoom to fill it up, and now I will save this as a 14 by 11 landscape, 1 inch. So I've saved this now as a new template. I can come back to my library, turn on my grid, and pick, say, another file here, come back to my print module, and now this is set up for 11 by 14 or 14 by 11 properly. And here is the same thing, only now I switched it to a 10 by 8. Again, making sure all of these are set up. Let me go back to the 14 by 11 and check out. Yep. So all of these settings have come forward. And now, depending upon what I want to do or the size I want, at this point now it's print to file. And this will basically take me out, and I can put this on my desktop as a 10 by 8 camera, 10 by 8 camera, and this is going to save this as a JPEG file. Save. It's saving this file as a print file. That's a JPEG file that I would then go out and print at a service bureau. So come out to my desktop. There's my 10 by 8 camera JPEG, and we're ready to go.